right, this is the Art of Public Speaking, Chapter 13. This chapter is on delivery. Question is, what is good delivery? Well, the book, and I like to quote from the book says the good delivery does not call attention to itself. It conveys the speaker's ideas clearly, interestingly, but without distracting, and that's very important. Some methods of delivery include reading from a manuscript. Of course, we know that most politicians read from a manuscript every time they do a speech. Reciting from memory, I don't recommend this because if you get lost in the middle of doing a speech where you're reciting from memory, what happens is you now don't know exactly where it is you're going to go. And that's problematic because you will end up stopping. You can end up stopping the speech. You can end up messing up the speech in some way. I don't recommend reciting from memory. Speaking impromptu is speaking with no preparation. You're suddenly given a topic, asked to speak, and you have to speak. Believe it or not, that's one of the most common forms of public speaking that you will do. You will have things happen. You may be at work. Your boss may say, hey, you're doing this project. Why don't you get up and tell everybody about this project that you're doing? Speaking extemporaneously, this is what we try to do, especially on the speech attribute and on the persuasive speech, on the informative speech. We try to speak extemporaneously. You have a limited number of notes, and then you speak from the heart to some degree. Some other important aspects of delivery. One is the speaker's voice, the volume, how loud or how soft you speak, how the pitch, that's where you land on the musical scale. Always wanted James Earl Jones's voice, but I don't have that. The rate, that's how fast or how slow you go, as you may have already figured out. Sometimes I get going a little fast. I have to slow myself down. Pauses are very powerful. You can use pauses to reinforce a point. You might give a point and then pause, and then you come back and then you repeat the point, and people will remember that more. We achieve vocal variety through varying our pitch, our volume, and the rate at which we speak. And we also do that through adding pauses at times. Pronunciation is just a matter of pronouncing the word correctly. Sometimes we have a word that we don't quite know the pronunciation of. The word genuine is often pronounced genuine, and it actually should be pronounced genuine. Articulation, that's a matter of saying words clearly instead of slurring them together, which is very common. The words all right, sometimes people will say "aight," and another one is, do you know what I'm saying? And the way that gets thrown together is know what I'm saying. And unfortunately, that's a common problems with articulation. Dialect is a great thing. There's nothing wrong with dialect. The only issue with dialect could be if the dialect is such that the audience cannot understand what you're saying. And you also have to understand that certain dialects do create certain impressions on people, whether they should or should not. I was from the South. I moved off to California. Of course, I did work on my accent to some degree, although some of it's come back since I moved back to the South. And people have certain thoughts about people who have certain dialects. It's an important thing to remember. Talks about the speaker's body, your personal appearance. It's very important to dress slightly nicer than maybe you're expecting to need to dress for an occasion. Your appearance should not be distracting. Your clothing should be appropriately. Low-cut blouses, short skirts, things that could distract for a young lady. For a young man, I actually had to get up to give a speech. He was wearing a muscle shirt. It was fishnet. Terribly inappropriate. Not the right way to give a speech. Movement can be good. Movement can be bad. Movement, as far as how you're handling your body, you don't want to pace. You don't want to walk back and forth across the stage. You don't want to sway. Gestures are important. Of course, we don't always see them on camera here, but gestures can reinforce an idea. And if you let go of the lectern, pull your hands out of your pocket, you will probably gesture very, very naturally. Eye contact is a very important aspect of delivery. You need to maintain eye contact, move your eye contact around with the audience one at a time. It's not constant, you have to have constant eye contact, but a certain level of eye contact brings the audience into you as you look at them. You want to practice your delivery, practice your speech out loud. It's a very powerful and effective way to do that. By the way, this is part 1 of the chapter. I'm going to stop this now, and then I will do part 2 and post that as well.